Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Joining me is Gowdy Molina. Welcome to the show, Gowdy. We're going to be interviewing you today. No.
I'd rather not. Can we do that some other time?
Some other time. Okay. Today on the show, we are featuring Sofvie. And on our last show over on the Crownsmen show, we ended up talking about forgiveness on the show. So we go into some funny areas on the show and good. Today, one of their slogans is transform data into wisdom.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing slogan. And we're going to be talking about what Sofvie is doing. We're featuring their Chief Innovation Officer, Gus Miner. We're going to be covering a lot of ground. And before we do that, Gowdy, who is bringing us the show today?
Okay, so today we've got Sofvie Equipment. Are you working on pipelines, oil and gas projects, renewable energy, or LNG and need to save some cash? Well, you can visit Sofvie Equipment. They have industrial pumps, electrical equipment from motors to transformers, and even surplus pipe and much, much more available now. Visit them at sofvieequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. And of course, tell your company's story to thousands of mining professionals every week. Book your guest spot on The Crownsmen Show, Mining Now, or Crownsmen Energy. You can book with us, info@crownsmen.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can watch all the episodes and don't miss any of the new ones. Next up, we also have Power Zone. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with Power Zone. Visit them at powerzone.com.
Okay. Oh, and we should mention CIM is doing their virtual trade show. They're using Next Tech to supply an AR experience and live streaming video for their the expo in 2021. That's going to be May 3rd to 6th. And yours truly will actually be hosting the opening plenary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely have to watch.
So I'm going to have to memorize some names because they've got some great people opening the show for them. It's going to be a good event.
I would love to see that because your ability to pronounce names.
Oh, I've already been studying. But yeah, check that out. Go to CIM.org, I believe, and I think we'll have a banner up for that as well. Okay, Gus, thank you for coming on the show. It's good to have you. I'm excited to get into Sofvie. It's an interesting company, and your background and why you got into it. I want to unpack all that. So welcome to Mining Now.
Oh, thank you very much, Jerry. We're glad to be on board.
Okay, so I think I want to start with the name Sofvie because it's spelled VIE at the end, and I was trying to figure out why, and then you explained it to me. Where does the name come from?
Yeah, so the name was it was a journey like all companies that start up. They try to find a name and everything is taken. So registering a name is something that's difficult on two fronts. One, you want to make sure that it's unique and identifiable for the purpose that you're serving. At the same time, you want to make sure that you have something that's unique and doesn't infringe on anyone else's intellectual property or copyrights or anything else like that, right? So we have to make sure that we follow all of the standards and guidelines when we create a name. For us, our biggest journey with naming the software or our company, as a matter of fact, is Sofvie is actually our flagship software, and the company itself is Sofvie Incorporated. We wanted to make sure that the name was something that would represent our purpose and start our brand right from the get-go. So Sofvie, the first three letters, SOF, came from our concept of trying to get more out of the data and trying to understand what's happening. And for that, we need to gain knowledge and wisdom from the data being collected. And Sophia, which is the Greek goddess of knowledge and wisdom, was something that came to mind right away. Obviously, Sophia and the word Sophie and other words around it were already taken by many organizations before ours. And also, it signifies that we're actually building a software. So SOF is stands for Sophia, the Greek goddess of God, or the Greek goddess of knowledge and wisdom, as well as the software that we're building. And V is life in French. Ultimately, we're trying to really dig deep into data and the data cycles so that we can take that information, convert it into something that we can gain some insights in, so get the knowledge from it, and ultimately build the wisdom to help save lives.
That's it's great to know the actual setup of a name, because it is a very good name. Did that process of coming up with the name, was it a long process, or was that something sort of that you had knowledge of leading in when the name came?
It was a collaborative effort. Like everything that happens at Sofvie, we have a lot of hands on deck when it comes to doing anything. So we brainstormed quite a bit, and we also reached out to a third party agency to help us a little bit as far as making sure that we hone in on our Magna Carta and hone in on the right directions. So we ended up contracting out with Clear Motive to help us out. And through the whole process, right, it just kind of guided itself through properly through the whole creative process of things. And then just at one moment, we ended up taking a few ideas that were brought together and just merged them together and made our own word to signify what we're trying to achieve with our brand, our product, and ultimately how we want to add value with our tools.
Yeah, I love the backstory, and I'm glad we could open up the show talking about it. The other thing is, I said it on off the top of the show, is using that word wisdom. There's a lot of companies that sort of the low hanging fruit. It could have been transform data into leadership, transform data into speed. Like there's all these sort of standard. But as soon as I really like when a company, and it shows depth. Of course, the word is wisdom. Ironically, it shows depth that a company doesn't just use those standard words. It actually goes a little bit deeper and pulls out a word that people, it's a strong word, but it also is not one that you see every day when you're, let's say you're walking through a trade show. You don't see transform data into wisdom on every slogan. Was that part of the discussion too? The branding, the name, did that all come together at once, or did that come afterwards?
It all came together fairly quickly. As we were really honing in on what we're doing and what we're set out to do. Once we had the name, the slogan, came to us pretty quickly, especially having, a pretty well detailed Magna Carta that we had in place. It really helped us understand what we're seeking at achieving and which value that we're trying to offer everyone that's using our tools.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the tool. I don't know where you want to start, Gus. I'll kind of let you guide it, because do you want to start over what sort of sets you apart, or do you want to dig right into the software itself? Because it's something, I know that at the end of the day, it's making the worksite safer, but I don't have a clear understanding of it. So I'll let you kind of guide the conversation. So do you want to start what the end goal is, or do you want to start with the software part of it?
I think it's actually all merged together, so we can have a pretty open conversation about what we're doing, and it'll paint a very good picture about the software itself and the intent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what is the actual product then? Let's go with that. What is the customer getting when Sofvie delivers?
Right. So our product, we've labeled it as a collaborative intelligence platform. The key component that you get when you embark on the journey that we go together, because it through the transformation process, not only on the digital side but also on the cultural side, it's an evolution, right? When you're using our tools, and what we wanted to make sure that we did is that we didn't force anyone that's using our tools in a specific direction. We give your organization the creative boundaries or the creative capabilities to leverage them how you see fit. Ultimately, we're not here to replace your leadership. We're here to enhance it. And through it all, we wanted to make sure that, and this sets us apart a little bit, quite a bit from many different offerings, is that we want to include every single layer of the organization and give everyone a voice. More specifically, the workforce. There's a ton of information and ton of knowledge that we can gain from the workforce that's delivering the services and products and overall how can I say it, the value from each organization, right? As far as how do you deliver value to the world, and the workforce is a very, very big key in that. And they know best. They know what's going on day to day, and they understand where their pain points are. They understand where their successes are. So why not tap into that information and really enhance their workplace for them so that they can perform and be at ease performing, not only from the safety aspect of things, but overall communication. It's very rare that you would have a very streamlined information channel right from the workforce all the way up to the CEO and right back down. So you can create that collaborative space.
Gus, maybe actually something that I'd find helpful, and maybe the audience would as well, is you mentioned pain points, and maybe that would be a place to also bring into the discussion is the let's say the old way of doing it before Sofvie shows up. What is the setup of what are those pain points that you are taking care of? And I know you have actually experienced, like your own background, you were part of the workforce that had those pain points. So could you paint a picture of maybe the way it was, and then we can slide into where Sofvie fixes those problems?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially in the mining sector, well, actually in any sector that's seeking to deliver quality and have productivity on a daily basis, things are happening quickly. And at the same time, there's an enormous amount of the workforce today they're millennials or younger. So quick results and quick delivery are very, very much right up their alley. However, something that's a little bit of quite a bit of a pain point in the workplace right now is the communication is still very slow. When it comes to the safety systems, for example, the mining sector has what's seemingly one of the best safety systems, or leverage some of the best safety systems in the world to make sure that everybody goes home safe at the end of the day. However, it's a world-class safety system that's in play, and it's still on paper. Therefore, it's still subject to all of the failures or all of the opportunities that paper presents, where, hopefully the paper makes it to each place that it needs to go to inform everybody. And hopefully there's more paperwork that gets generated to trickle the information back so that you can actually see things get into action. So from that pain point perspective, we've leveraged technology in order to fast track or reduce those pain points quite a bit so that information can be as real time as possible, whether you're on an online format in your organization, in your workplace, or you have offline workplaces where they don't necessarily have connectivity. How do you get that information as quickly as possible where it needs to go and get into action right away? The workforce often asks for many things or is able to give a lot of feedback on what's happening in as close real time as they can. However, the actions to help them and to support them normally aren't.
So, okay. So then where does Sofvie come in? Like you said, if they're in a remote location and I'm just trying to understand that workflow, because, I've been on sites where yeah, the information can move a little bit slow. So then where does Sofvie come in and how do they distribute that information? Is it through an app? Is it integrated into another system? Is it its own independent system with individual profiles? What is sort of the setup?
Yeah, so the setup is that we have our software split into two different components. There's the mobile application component, which is it's not device centric. You can use it on iOS, Android, laptops, desktops, whatever you see fit as being the acceptable hardware for your workplace. So on that mobile application, you got the ability to complete all of your work that you would normally complete on paper. So we've managed to find a way to get things digital. At the same time, it gives you all the insights that you need to do your work. So when it comes to how is the company trending overall, whether it's from a positive performance standpoint, whether it's incidents that are in play, hazards that are being identified and addressed, information that typically takes quite a bit of effort to get to the workplace. Now, as soon as it's in the system, you get it real time, so everybody's in the know. So from those paper documents to those trends, as well as everything that's on your profile, once you're logged in, you've got access now to everything that the system has on you. So if you're engaging into each component that Sofvie offers, there's your HR information, there's information there for all of your training records, all your certifications, any action items that are assigned to you, any action items that you've put in play and you want to know where they are. Now, if you've got access to that to your in the palm of your hands, like we have with Sofvie, you can see that they're either outstanding or complete, which closes the loop quite a bit, especially with the workforce, where they're wondering, do I have to ask one time or do I have to ask 100 times? Which typically on paper processes occurs where you don't know where that is. So you just keep asking and asking, and you hope that at one point things get resolved. Now, with actions being in the palm of your hands at all times, at all levels, things can come into fruition much quicker and offer value to the workforce right away, and gain that momentum that's sometimes lacking in certain work environments where there's a trust barrier between the workforce and management, or there's a doubt that occurs that things will happen the way they would like to happen. Now you're collaboratively working on the same platform, and you can bridge those communication gaps between shifts, between cycles, between different levels of the organizations, and break down some of the silos that exist in different formats. And then on the other side, you obviously have we have a management portal that's available as well that gives you access to all of the other benefits of collecting information. So all this information that's coming in from the mobile application in the field, now you're able to analyze that information, get information back to people that are making requests for it, have your risk assessments taken care of, your planning efforts taken care of from your pre-shift lineups, as well as managing all of your training records for your staff. And we also offer the ability to integrate with other platforms. So we know that double entry and the fact that we have too many systems in an organization is also a pain point. So we said, let's just make it fresh and easy for everyone to participate collaboratively through one platform and pull in all the information from different areas so that we can capture everything that we need to capture without requiring anybody to do any double entry or managing multiple systems.
Right. Was that a challenge? Because that is a key component. I mean, if you hear new software, new app, I mean, one of the first things that I do think about is, oh boy, okay, I've got a file that's just all my login information. And that list just is getting longer and longer all the time. And was that a difficult thing to develop, or was that right from the get-go? You knew that just had to be part of the software?
Yeah, I mean, the tricky part with any software is that, for one, you have to design it so that it stands on its own. It has to be a self-sufficient platform in the event that you're going into an organization. And it happens many times for us right now where we're talking to many clients where they don't have anything digital at this point. This would be their first step into digitizing their workplace. So it needs to have all of the tool set to be self-standing and to offer value right away without needing to leverage other systems. And at the same time, we also have to be cognizant that we're going in as a piece of the puzzle and we're not the entire puzzle. And we need to be able to work very well with other systems. So it was something that was right at the beginning, right from the get-go, an understanding from our standpoint that we needed to offer the flexibility for everyone to enjoy our tools the way they see fit in the organization.
Yeah, you sold me just on that one feature right there. You mentioned something. You mentioned young people coming into organizations, and I want to touch on that a little bit, just from your personal perspective, because there are a lot of companies, they are trying to attract, the next generation into mining. There's a lot of other industries that are pulling the next generation away from mining, but there are people coming in. I mean, how much of a factor do you think that is? From my perspective, it would seem to be huge because, and I'll give you an example. When I come into an office, you mentioned that, you're still dealing with companies that you'd be their first sort of entry into the digitization of their company. And it's actually very challenging for me when I come into an environment where they're on an old system. Because I haven't used those old systems for so long that now it's like a whole learning curve. It must actually be a big advantage to a company if they can have that as an offering when people start when the next generation is coming in. I mean, that is that an actual selling point when you're talking to these companies? Does that conversation come up?
Absolutely. I mean, we're in a pivotal point in many industries right now where there's a big generational gap in the workforce. So you're either very close to the end of your career or starting your career right now. So in order to enable both parties, one, the tools have to be built in a way that satisfy both all of the generations that are using the system. So it's going to be easy to use as much as possible. And that's where one of our key selling points is, as well as that we built it for the miner. We built it for the workforce. So it doesn't have that complexity that other engineered controls would have, so to speak, or systems that were built for the management layer. We can very, very easily satisfy every layer of the organization. But the toughest one when it comes to adoption and using the tools is making sure that the workforce is engaged. So making it as easy as possible to use is the key thing. At the same time, with the youth coming into the industry, and that's where the wisdom comes in, is how do we capture all of that experience and all of that knowledge that's available with those generations that are slowly, leaving the industry, and pass it on to the next generations of the workforce so that they can plan their work and execute at the same efficiency or better. And that was one of our key components with Sofvie, is that it's a place where all the information can live and offer that knowledge and transform it into wisdom. I mean, once you've got that knowledge, now how do you put it into action? You take that wisdom to drive the future efforts. And what we have to realize as well is that, especially, any heavy industry, mining, for example, there's room there for everyone. There's room there for everyone. And the more we collaborate with different mindsets, different skill sets, multi-generations, the better we have many good ideas that come into fruition and come into play into the workplace and deliver products or deliver services in a way that we potentially have never seen before. And if we don't have those tools in hand to enable that, there's a missed opportunity.
This is a big reason that I love doing this show, because if we did 10-minute interviews, we would just miss key things that just because of essentially my lack of knowledge and insight into the topics. And you said something else that I've touched on other shows, but never from the digital distribution of information, is that the older generation, for lack of a better word, that's in that workforce that is beginning to move out of that, they need to pass all that down. And when we were prepping for this interview, I didn't think of it, but now you're saying it, of course, your platform is actually now a way to distribute that knowledge through, multi-generations of the workforce that's coming in.
Exactly. I mean, something that we see all the time, it's cyclical, right? So companies will make decisions, or work groups will make decisions, or different members of the organization will make decisions and say, okay, moving forward, we will do it this way, or moving forward, we will no longer consider these things. And that information has a lifeline or a lifespan. Mm. It will only be as effective as it can be for as long as those people are still available to share that knowledge and to share those insights on what's been discussed. Now you fast forward 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, and those members are no longer part of the planning process, and they're no longer there to share those insights. Where does that information live? It's still living in their heads. because for the most part, a lot of this information is not really captured at the level that it needs to be captured. So someone new coming in to do the same type of work that we've now had all those experiences, doesn't have that baggage to carry with them, as far as the knowledge base to effectively plan the work and execute in the best way possible, whether it's for streamline the approach to process better, or to flat out just make sure that we have all of our controls in place for safe execution. A lot of those pieces are missing when we have new teams executing work. So now that they have a platform that they can actually get access to all that information, whether it's a year old, 3 years old, 10 years old, however it may be, now you can have a new team put together to execute work that can leverage that information to plan the same as a team that's been together for possibly 5 to 10 years.
The other area where you're going through, this must be huge in shift rotation, hazards, and things like that must just be a huge value add. Is that right?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that we identified, especially in mining with the offsets of the shifts, right? Because we want to make sure that we take our rounds and blast when it's safe to do so and everybody's clear from everywhere. Now, what it happens is one safety control also created an opportunity in a different area. And communication is one of the biggest barriers where, before central blasting came in, for example, you would have cross shifts possibly sharing vehicles or sharing stories in the parking lot. And all that information gets transferred person to person. So now that we're working this way, we've got a couple of hours where everybody funnels information to their key person, whether it's their supervisor or their manager. And then that person is able to transfer the information, whether written or verbal, to the next one. And you hope that it continues in a way that allows the work to continue in a very cyclical pattern without exposing anybody to harm. However, it's a very, very big challenge. So by having a digital system that's able to capture all that information, now all of those notes, they just carry over from shift to shift, and it keeps information cycling through. And everybody now becomes part of the conversation about, hey, this shift identified these opportunities. Let's start the day by fixing those opportunities so that we can have the workplace that we know that we deserve and love and enjoy producing in, and then go to the next stages. So the communications of cycles the communication of hazards and risks in the workplace now is streamlined through the lineup process, because everything is available for them at their fingertips. And the conversation changes slightly in the lineups, where rather than trying to scramble for this information or prod the groups for information that you need to be successful for the day, everything is available for you, and you can have a conversation about successful delivery. It also, it really enhances the mindsets going into the workplace, because even if you are not going to the perfect workplace, you know about it before you get there. Where typically you're told everything should be fine, go there and continue the work. Well, you go there and it might not be fine. Now you're on a different mindset. You don't have the right tools with you. You're kind of starting at a deficiency. Your expectation, everybody wants to go to work and produce. Right. So now your expectation of what you're going to deliver is now reduced because you have to deal with other things. So at the very least, understanding that beforehand and possibly have the opportunity to get the tools that you need to address the issues, or just get your mind right before you get to the workplace, that these are the things you'll have to deal with. And it becomes part of the expectation of this shift, rather than the expectation is set and now you're at a deficiency because you've got all these other things to deal with. So that's where the communication cycle is very, very important to us. And we see there's a great opportunity to really enhance that alongside of the great leadership that's available in the workplace to really get the effort streamlined and going in the right direction every shift.
And this is a software that is there a minimum size of company? Like, can it be used for 5, 10 people and 100 to 1,000 people? Is it pretty flexible in that way?
It is, and ultimately we grow with the organization as well. So that's one of our key selling points as well, is that you can have an organization of 1,000 people in it, but ultimately it all starts with one person, right? That's the champion of the system that's going to see things through. So we help that process as well to say, okay, we know that we have 1,000 employees to manage. You can manage all 1,000 employees through this application, and then we can stage the rollout so that we can lead with the tools rather than pushing the tools down and expecting it to succeed.
Mm-hmm. There's the one thing that Sofvie it really excites me about having you on the show is that it represents digitizing the mining space, which is obviously just a huge push right now. Safety, which is probably up there before digitizing, or it should be. And then it's also that multi-generation collaboration. It's also the workforce on the ground to the executive level. It's all those things that mining should be. And there's another component, which is the partnerships. And I want to talk about that because you've developed some great partnerships. And I don't think this interview would be complete without talking about that. And not only the importance of it as it to the industry, but also the importance of it for developing your company.
Yeah, that's right. We've formed some great partnerships, and one that we're very proud of, in particular locally here, is we've been able to collaborate very well with the Cambrian College Research and Development Department, which has allowed us to do quite a few things. We're on a mission to create the workplace of the future, right? However, there's an opportunity there to also help develop the workforce of the future. And with Cambrian, we've been able to do a lot of that, where we're able to introduce what we're doing from a development standpoint, and even the concepts of where we're going, very earlier on with the different programs they have in place there, and have them part of many of our deliverables, so that they understand real world application to the tools that are given at the college level, and really get that experience. And at the same time, really allowing for a very, very good pipeline of talent to come out of college and secure employment very, very easily with us as a continued efforts through what they were learning through their stages in college and continuing on that path. So it's been a very, very successful partnership so far. We've been able to develop a lot of great things. And ultimately, we've got quite a few members on our workforce that have come directly from that graduation plan through the college.
And then what about now? You also have partnered with some private companies as well. Are you able to talk about that, or is that sort of in the NDA category?
We can talk about some of it, but yeah, a lot of our efforts that we're doing now, as far as how do we collect all the data, right? So there's machine data, and then you have data that's available on the internet already. Then you've got the personal data as far as what people are ready to share with you. Mm-hmm. How do you put all that into play to really start capturing the elements of what's available as opportunities in the workplace and offer insights back? How do we offer those insights back and capitalize on those opportunities to minimize risk and harm to individuals that are doing work that could put them at risk, right?
Right.
So some of that work is done with Cambrian, and then we've also got Deloitte that's been helping us quite a bit as far as getting that data stream in a nice organized fashion, so that we can see how we can leverage new or old algorithms or different potentials at merging that data together, so that we can really have a full collaboration, not only at the human level, but human and machine and IoT and all the other data providing elements that we are surrounded with within the industrial revolution that we're in right now. Right?
When you first, I think Sean Ellis and I were the first contact that I'd had with Sofvie, who is a great guy to work with, by the way. And when I started the process, it took me a little while to understand what Sofvie was doing. And it really brings to mind when you are a new player in a market, and it's very clear you have something. I mean, they're doing entire talks on this. I mean, we've done multiple shows, people coming on talking about the need for safety, streamlining communication, next generation, all this stuff that you're delivering. We've had entire shows, people talking about not even the solutions, but the need for it. And you're filling that gap. But it does bring to mind the question of, when you fill a gap, you also need to communicate how you're doing it. How is the response? From when you started till now, has it changed? Is it easy to get in the door? Is it easy to have these conversations? Where is that part of the company at?
Yeah. So from when we first started, I mean, the feedback that we got from the field, right, was that it's what a great idea. However, how are we going to get digital devices underground? How is that going to work? How do you see that fitting? And some of the, some players may have said that, we're potentially crazy as far as entertaining that value for underground and heavy construction and heavy industry. And the interesting part is that as soon as we're able to get those tools in play and just have those trial components in play and really do the R&D that we needed to do right at the face, we found that the devices that are available are a little bit more rugged than people would have thought. We haven't had very many devices fail, and we haven't had very many devices break. Ultimately, people are taking care of the devices they have in hand because they now offer so much value to them. And when the workforce started seeing almost immediate results to their feedback, where it's not just going into a void or going into a wish list somewhere or be ignored, that now that they're putting things in action, they've brought it up once and it gets taken care of seemingly, almost real time. It just offers so much value to keep the process moving forward. And fast forward, a good year, now we've got a workforce that was actually pulling for it and asking for more features and driving a lot of interest to introduce many other things that we potentially may not have thought of. So our tool set essentially has been built for workers by workers. And it really, really helps to have that component built in there or that framework. Because if you don't build a system that's feedback based, whereas once you get that information back, you got to take that knowledge and turn it into wisdom and put it into action, right? So we do that very, very well so far with, and that's our mission moving forward as well, is to continue to learn and continue to understand the impacts that we're having in the field, both on the positive side and the opportunity side, where we need to change a few things to make sure that it really, really suits their needs. That's been our biggest focus as we've been building our product.
What you're doing, I mean, we've, and I don't want to bring the conversation from a positive place, but you are at the end of the day saving a life. And recently, the mining industry lost somebody. They did lose a life, and this just happened not even a week ago. And so, what you're doing is that. I think you're going to see a big shift. And even in the last couple of years, you must have seen a lot of demand. And then with this what recently happened, you're going to see more of a demand. From a scale perspective, as the demand increases, coming on our show, getting your name out there, of course, this episode is also promoted by CIM, so a lot of exposure to it. Are you ready from a company perspective for as more and more people are demanding your service? I have a feeling Sofvie is going to be in high demand here, coming into, especially now with everything that's remote working. People are running their teams from home now and all sorts of stuff. Have you had to create a lot of development in the last year because of all these changes and then these increased demands?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we grow as the demand grows, right? And so far, we've built a fairly significant team to be ready for the challenges ahead as far as scalability. However, right from the beginning, we knew that it was our mission that on the same token that today having a cell phone on your hand with access to Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and all the tools that you have access to your cell phone, that it's almost a social faux pas now to have those, to not have that in your hands, because that's how people communicate. Right. We knew that we would generate a momentum that it would essentially become socially unacceptable to not have that same amount of information availability in the workplace. And we've already started seeing some of those transitions where when some workers that come from an organization that's using our platform and they get very accustomed to it and they lean on it, and for some reason they part ways and then they go to a different organization, they express it that it's becoming socially unacceptable to not have this available for your workforce, because it's just so effective and efficient, right?
Yeah, I didn't, again, that's why I love these long form, because I didn't think about that. Someone leaves, kind of going back to what I said about, if I go into an environment where they don't use similar systems to what we use, I'm thinking, okay, well, how am I going to get that information from you? Like people emailing 20 pictures in 4 different emails rather than uploading it to a drive, things like that just take so much time when it's completely unnecessary. That must be, have you actually generated interest in sales from that exact situation? Someone going over to a new company and going, they don't have anything like this, and then going to management and saying, hey, we need this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we were fortunate enough that we had a very, very big test user base, if you want to call it, with local organizations. And mining is very cyclical when it comes to human resources. I mean, everybody kind of moves around as they see fit and what's best for them at the time. And we absolutely saw that immediately we had 500 or 600 salespeople available right away, where they were able to actually talk about the benefits of using the system. And what's nice is that we've made it so that if you can scale within the system over time, as you scale through organizations. So we're not looking at solving one pain point and then that's all of our tool does.
Right.
And that's what we put a lot of time in researching it, is how do we make this a one-stop solution where everything you need is there? And we can break down some of those silos that exist in organizations where they're leveraging different tools for different purposes, but none of them connect together. So right from the organizational risk rankings or risk evaluations, all the way to analyzing risk at the face and doing their work on a daily basis, how do we cover that entire gamut effectively and have everyone be part of the solution and leadership model, rather than having those disconnected pieces of data all over the place?
Gus, it's great to have you on the show. We're going to wrap up, but I really do appreciate you coming on and talking about it. It is, I mean, I've said it a few times already on the show, but it is, you are the discussion that is happening. I mean, we have CIM coming up on May 3rd. That is going to be a theme. All the stuff that we're talking about is going to be woven through. If I was to bet, I would say every conversation that we're having, and you're at the forefront. So thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for, and not just coming on the show. Thank you for developing this, because it is so important. It's what the industry needs, and you and your team have developed it. So thank you for that. And I do hope, I know it's isn't only, in some ways it's only the beginning. And I hope you come back on again to, showcase examples, talk more about partnerships, how it's developed and evolved with the companies that you're servicing as their needs. I hope we get to cover all that again.
Absolutely, Jared. I'm very happy to do that. And thank you for having me on the show. Like I say all the time, 1 hour, I can discuss things very, very quickly in an hour. But if I had a day, we would have a full day's conversation. So there's no shortage of opportunity when it comes to the mining industry and construction industry and how we work with our with everyone, and truly make sure that we cover all of our due diligences, whether from the employee, the supervisor, or the employer, and just truly have collaborative space available for everybody to prosper and be productive the way that everybody wants to be. So again, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to our future conversations.
Thank you, Gus. And I will say, transform data into wisdom is definitely the right slogan for what your company does. Nicely done on the branding of it, and then delivering what that brand represents. It's a beautiful thing to see in the mining industry.
Thank you very much, Jared.
Okay, that is Mining Now for today. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. I love what Sofvie's doing. And part of the reason I love it, because it took me a minute to understand what they were doing. And then once I understood, I was like, oh,
It was like
obviously,
revelation.
yeah, where has this been for all these sites? Gowdy, where can people follow, like, share, comment, etc.?
Well, first up, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got 2 episodes a week there. And, as we grow, we're going to move up to 3. Last episode of The Crownsmen Show, I said 5. That is the goal.
I feel like now you're just challenging Rory and I to scale.
It's a challenge for me too.
We're gonna need Gus to come in and help us learn how to scale our some software up or something.
No, but yeah, definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. And if you want to be a guest on the show, whether it's Mining Now, Crownsmen Show, The Crownsmen Show, Crownsmen Energy, contact us, info@crownsmen.com. You can also just visit our website. There's got lots of information there, crownsmen.com. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Gowdy. Thank you, Gus. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And come back for more. We've got plenty of episodes coming up. We're booked right deep into the spring. So lots coming at you. Lots of Mining Now episodes. We just did a poll. Rory just did a poll on the favorite episode. And Mining Now is smoking the other shows. So
Mining
we've
Now.
got some mining fans that watch.
Where you want to be on.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode of Mining Now.